He had everything money could buy, except a reason to live. Until a little girl walked up to him and asked, "Sir, are you okay?" And that one question changed his entire life. The sky was gray the day he met her, one of those heavy gray mornings that feel like the world itself is tired. David Carter, a man who owned more than most people could ever dream of, stood outside his luxury car, staring at the one thing he could never buy, peace. His heart felt as empty as the streets around him. His money meant nothing. His success meant nothing. He had everything except a reason to feel anything at all. But then came a small voice, soft, curious, completely unexpected. "Sir, are you okay?" He turned, and there she was, a little girl in a worn red dress, standing on the sidewalk with tangled blonde hair and eyes that held a depth no child should ever have to carry. She didn't seem afraid of him, even though he towered above her and looked like he hadn't slept in days. She just looked concerned, and that simple question would end up changing everything. Before the story begins, make sure you're part of this journey with us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. David had been driving aimlessly for hours that morning. His company had announced record profits. His face had been in magazines and online articles for years. But behind the expensive suit and the forced smile, he felt nothing but the weight of loneliness. He had pushed people away, friends, family, anyone who tried to get close. Work had become his life, and even that felt hollow now. When the little girl asked if he was okay, he didn't answer right away. He wasn't used to people asking him how he felt. Most asked him for deals, donations, favors. Not this child. She just wanted to know if he was hurting. Finally, he cleared his throat. "I don't know," he admitted. The girl nodded gently, the way children do when they understand far more than adults give them credit for. She sat down on the curb and patted the spot beside her. "You can sit here," she said simply. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he did. They sat in silence for a moment. Cars passed. Birds chirped somewhere in the dull morning, and then she said something he never expected. "My mom says people who cry are carrying something heavy in their heart," she whispered. "Is your heart heavy?" David felt something twist in his chest. How long had it been since he'd spoken honestly to anyone? Yet here he was opening up to a child he didn't even know. "Yes," he said quietly. "Very heavy." She nodded again. "Mine gets heavy sometimes, too." He looked at her closely now. Her clothes were faded, her shoes too big, and her tiny hands were red from the cold. She didn't look like a child who had many easy days, yet she had approached him, a stranger, just to offer comfort. "Where do you live?" he asked gently. She pointed down the street to a small, run-down house with peeling paint and a broken front step. "I live on that street, sir," she said. "Sometimes we don't have much. But Mom says we're still rich if we share kindness." Those words struck him harder than any motivational speech or therapy session ever had. Still rich if we share kindness. Before he could reply, the front door of the little house opened and a tired-looking woman stepped out. She wore an old sweater and looked like life had not been easy on her. But when she saw the girl, she smiled. Warm, genuine, full of love. "Emma," she called, "breakfast is ready." The girl jumped up but then turned back to David. "You can come eat too," she said brightly. "Mom won't mind." He blinked in surprise. No one invited him to things out of kindness anymore. It was always for business, influence, or gain. "No, sweetie, I can't," he said. "But thank you." She shrugged. "Okay, I hope your heart feels better." She ran off, ponytail bouncing, leaving David sitting on the curb, staring after her, feeling something he hadn't felt in years' warmth. Over the next few days, he couldn't stop thinking about that little girl. Why had she been so kind to him? Why had her words dug so deeply into his soul? Finally, he returned to the street. This time, the neighborhood looked even rougher than he remembered. Houses worn by time, people doing their best with very little. And then he saw her again playing outside with a cracked jump rope. When she spotted him, she grinned. "You came back." He ended up talking with her mother that afternoon. He learned that Emma's family was struggling, barely able to afford food, let alone repairs to their home. Her mother worked 2 jobs and still didn't make enough. But despite all they lacked, their home was full of warmth, laughter, and kindness. David felt something shift inside him. He wanted to help not out of pity, not out of guilt, but because this family had given him something he desperately needed, hope. Over the next months, he quietly paid for repairs to their home. He set up a scholarship fund in Emma's name. He sponsored after-school programs for kids in the neighborhood, and he visited often, not as the rich man from the magazines, but as a friend. People around him noticed the change. He smiled more. He listened more. He even reconnected with his own family. His heart, once heavy, felt lighter than it had in decades. One afternoon, he told Emma's mother, "Your daughter saved me." She shook her head. "No, your heart was just waiting for kindness to wake it up." But the moment he never forgot was when Emma hugged him one day and said, "See, Mom was right. Kindness makes us rich." And so, he learned what many people forget. Wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, houses, or cars.